Back everyone. I hope you already watched the number one video where we discussed chapter 3 job costing, and we discussed several examples. We discussed what type of companies usually use job costing system. So now we will have a very quick recap and we will solve some practice problems from the end of the chapter. We will do these three problems here that I'm going to record is 36, E320A, E321A. And then the other two problems you need to do as your homework. Don't forget to take notes and solve these problems with me when you will watch the video. So job costing, just a quick recap. The companies that actually manufacture unique or customized products, or they manufacture some products in a very small number or in small batches, they usually use job costing. And for this type of costing process, you need to follow some steps to calculate the allocated overhead costs. Remember, for any manufacturing process, you need to know three types of costs: direct material cost, direct labor cost, and manufacturing overhead cost. So for job costing, we actually first determine our manufacturing overhead rate, and this is the formula you need to know for this chapter. For each and every problem, you will be given all those numbers. You need to pick the correct number, plug in the formula, and calculate the predetermined overhead rate. So the numerator is total estimated manufacturing overhead cost, and the denominator is your total estimated amount of allocation base. Remember, the allocation base is really important. So when you are going to solve any problem, check it out very carefully. What is the allocation base? It could be their direct labor hours or machine hours or direct labor cost. Once you know your predetermined overhead rate, then you need to check for a specific job what is the actual amount of your cost allocation base. And you need to multiply the predetermined overhead rate by the actual amount of allocation base used by the job. This is how you can calculate your allocated manufacturing overhead cost. So for this chapter, these are the practice problems that you really need to know. S36, E320A, E321A, and E34B, E35B. As I mentioned in my first class, there are two sets of identical problems, set A and B. So we usually will solve problem set A, the practice problems from set A, and the rest, problem set B, you have to do it as your homework. Again, don't forget to take notes and solve the problems with me when you watch this video. So first, let's solve this problem, S36. By the way, all those problems, including the solutions, are already posted on your Blackboard. If you check week 2 folder, you will find all this information. So if you read the problem, you will see that the Edmonton company, they actually mention their total estimated overhead costs, and they also mentioned that they're gonna use the total amount of direct labor hours, which is 50,000, and total amount of their direct labor costs. Now, the companies are expected to run for 40 hours for their machines. Now, what you need to do, you need to calculate the predetermined overhead rate. Now, remember, the company can select any allocation base. So you have like three different cases. And in each and every case, they have three different allocation base. For example, for question number one, their allocation base is direct labor hours. For number two, their allocation base is direct labor cost. And for number three, their allocation base is machine hours. And you know all those total estimated amount of their allocation base. So these are actually three different scenarios, and we will assume these are three different independent situations, and using all those information we will calculate their predetermined manufacturing overhead rate.
Use everything is estimation. It will use 50,000 direct labor hours. And another estimation is that it will incur 1 million direct labor costs next year. Okay, so every information is given here. So all these are their estimation. Now, we're going to use all these things and we will calculate the first thing, which is our predetermined manufacturing overhead rate. But remember, it says they have like 3 types of allocation base. You know, allocation base could be direct labor hour, it could be machine hour, it could be your labor cost. Whatever is your allocation base, you will pick the correct allocation base. And then we're going to calculate all these things. So for A1, 2, 3, you are going to calculate your predetermined overhead rate. But for 3 problems, there are 3 assumptions. There are 3 different allocation base. So very simple. Just plug in all those numbers. So let's try to do it. You know the formula. I'm writing it. I just want to make sure you can remember it while you are in class. So everyone please try to do it. So we are going to calculate our predetermined manufacturing overhead rate. MOH stands for manufacturing overhead rate. You know the equation, but I'm still writing it again one more time, and you all will write it. Because if you write it a couple of times, you will never forget it. So here it will be your total estimated manufacturing overhead cost divided by total estimated amount of allocation base. Now for assumption problem 1, 2, 3, you have 3 assumptions. So let's see, number 1. So our assumption is what? What is our allocation base for number 1? Read, someone please tell me, number 1, what is your allocation base? Yes, Kyle? Very good. It's direct labor, but be careful, it's labor hours. Labor could be labor cost, labor could be labor hours. Okay, so it's labor hours. Thank you, Kai. So for the first thing, allocation base is you can write it direct, or if you don't write it direct, that doesn't problem because we don't worry about indirect part. So allocation base is labor hour. Remember, it could be labor cost, it could be labor hour. So for number 1, our allocation base is labor hour. So now you need to read the problem. And you need to tell me. And I will just plug in the numbers. So what is total estimated manufacturing overhead cost? Who can tell it? Total estimated manufacturing overhead. If you read the paragraph, estimated total manufacturing overhead cost. Yes, Brittany? Excellent. 1.4 million. It's 1,400,000. So if you read it, you will see second line that Edmonton estimates total manufacturing overhead cost next year is 1.4 million. Good. Now, for the first case, our allocation base is labor hour. Again, this is your estimated allocation base. So what is your estimated labor hour for next year? What is your estimated labor hour? Yes? So your estimated labor hour is 50,000. So you see, Edmonton also estimates it will use 50,000 direct labor hours. So your estimated labor hour is 50,000. So your labor manufacturing overhead rate based on labor hour is how much? You got 28?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I think everyone got 28, right? Very good. So $28 per labor hour. That means if your labor worked for 1 hour, your overhead allocation will be 28 bucks. Very good. So this is our predetermined manufacturing overhead rate based on labor hour. Next, allocation base. Problem number 2. Your allocation base is what? Allocation base. Who can tell me? For scenario number 2, allocation base is? Labor cost. So this time, your second assumption, your allocation base is labor cost. Labor cost. So now we will try to figure it out. Predetermined manufacturing overhead rate is equal to, again, your numerator is saying total estimated manufacturing overhead cost, which is how much? Who can tell it very quickly? Total estimated manufacturing overhead cost is how much? We just did it. Yes, Margaret? Yeah, I'm plugging this equation here. Total estimated manufacturing overhead cost, which is how much? We just did it. Yes, I just want to make sure you got it. 1,400,000. But this time our allocation base is labor cost. So what is your estimated labor cost for next year? Estimated labor cost. So your estimated labor cost, it says that it incurs $1 million of direct labor next year. So your estimated labor cost is 1 million. This is your labor cost. Right. And if you do that, you will find how much? Who can tell me? You got 1.4. Remember, this is not a dollar value because it's dollar canceled out. This is actually a rate and percentage. So 1.4, or you can also call it 1.4 times, or you can also say like this, 40%. Right, that means if your labor cost is $1, your overhead will be $1.40. It's 1.4 times or 140%. Since we have dollar here sign both in numerator and denominator, so it crossed out. There is no dollar sign here. Right. But this is in terms of percentage or times. Right. So now you know another predetermined manufacturing overhead rate. Third one. What is your allocation base? Machine hours. So now, third one, our allocation base is machine hour. And we're gonna calculate our predetermined manufacturing overhead rate. Again, your numerator is total estimated manufacturing overhead cost, which is how much? Everyone should know it. 1.4 million, very quickly. And now this time, your allocation base is what? 40,000, which is your machine hour. So if you read the sentence, you see that they say their machines are expected to be run for 40,000 hours. So your expected machine hour, 40,000. So this is your machine hour. And this is how you will get your rate. Again, here is only $1 sign. This is hour. So now we will figure it out, which is how much? $35. So $35 per machine hour. This time we have hour in our denominator, dollar is our numerator. So we will express it like this. $35 per machine hour. That means if your machine runs for 1 hour, your overhead will be $35. So this is how you can calculate your manufacturing overhead. Now we will do another